Well, good afternoon, Carl.
Greetings, Michael Kitces. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We're transitioning into spring season by the time we're
Yeah,
recording this, probably close to late spring, early summer by the time this goes live out to the world. So I'm assuming weather is now getting beautiful in Utah.
so pretty. I haven't put the skis away yet, but I'm mainly up in the mountains running now instead of skiing. It's been amazing. So beautiful.
Cool. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited for today's discussion. It's kind of like an indirect version of the sort of stop doing list conversation we
Mm.
had last episode. So I'm just going to basically read this question that came in for in full from a listener. So this is what she said. I go to conferences, I'm active in social media, I listen to podcasts, which means I'm always exposed to more ways I could be awesome for my clients, more skills I could develop, more deliverables, more knowledge to attain. And then there are the people out there still charging 1% of AUM to basically just throw someone into a third party separately managed account and send a performance report quarterly.
Mm.
So what I'm trying to get a handle on, in the reader, we'll call her Meg. What I'm trying to get a handle on is, when can I stop doing and learning more because I'm good enough and my value is enough?
Mm.
It's like not necessarily arguing against never learning another thing, but as Meg frames, like in my own practice this year, my goal is to not do more for clients. In fact, we're actually trying to figure out if we can cut uh and then make sure, like, spend more time making sure clients know what we are doing for them.
Wow.
But I was fascinated by this framing because I think a
Yeah.
lot of us sort of have this natural tendency, compulsion, and just like, well, I really want to make sure clients stick around, so I'm going to do a little more. I'm going to do a little more, and like, we got a little
Mm.
more efficient with our tech, and we saved a little time. So now we're going to do a little more for clients. With like, we freed up this time, and there's this tendency of always be doing more for clients. And in the purest sense, like, it's hard to literally argue against doing more for clients and providing more value for clients. But to the extent like we're trying to run a business, yeah, there really is such thing as doing too much for clients, or at least too much beyond what you're charging them for. And if they're not willing to pay that, then maybe that's not a good thing to be doing.
Mm.
And so just, I think this raises a really interesting question. As Meg framed it, like, how do you figure out when you're doing enough for clients and you really don't need to add in more value? You're good.
Such a cool question. Such a cool question. There's a couple things I'll just like maybe uh put them out there as bullet points so we can go through them. One I want to make sure we get to is utilization rate. I think this is a incredibly important concept. I don't know if that's its real name, but that's what I call it. Utilization of the services you provide, the rate of utilization, I think is
Okay.
really important. I want to talk about that last though. I'm like, it's so interesting that on the stop doing list, if you remember, and I can't remember what Dave Allen had there. I think he had delete, delegate, do. I think that's what it was.
Mhm.
I, delete is my favorite one. And I really love pushing the edge of that, like really thinking about it, because I think what was Michelangelo's answer when he was asked how he made the David? I think the Pope asked him, like, how did he make the David? And he said, oh, it was easy. I just got rid of everything that wasn't the David.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Little Prince, the saying in the Little Prince where he says, perfection is not achieved when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. And I think if you think about it in that light, like really pushing the edges of delete. And my favorite story, which I hope I haven't told too often, is that the story of like forgetting to send out the quarterly performance report and having like a panic attack over the weekend, like, oh, so many people are gonna be so mad, and then getting in Monday and having zero emails. And so I waited, and I didn't send it out next quarter. And I finally just changed my ADV to say performance reports available on request. And no one ever asked.
I say, did you ever even say anything to clients that you had changed the policy?
No, I just because revealed preferences are more valuable to me. Like if you ask, do you value your quarterly performance reports? Everybody's going to say yes. But if you just don't send them and nobody says anything, they clearly don't value them. So like I'm always running experiments around what can I delete and trying to see revealed preferences, not asking. So I think it's really interesting. It's the same way I try to write. Like what can I remove from this sentence or this paragraph and not lose the meaning. And I just think that exercise that I guess we're calling Meg like is pointing to is like, isn't it, wouldn't it be amazing to think about what's the simplest business you could be running? What's on behalf of your clients? I'm not talking about like what's the best way to save money so I can have higher profit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying on behalf of what would be the simplest business? What would be the most beautiful, elegant business, right? And I think the edges of that are we've thrown so much in here. Quarterly performance reports to me, we taught them that they wanted them, and nobody was born with like I need a quarterly performance report, right? We taught them they wanted them, and then now we complain. Everybody's always asking about performance. Well, we taught them. So anyway, I don't know if it's a good idea for anybody else. I'm simply saying push the edge of delete, see what you could get rid of.
So one of the things that strikes me about is the way you frame this, and that story in particular, I feel like for a lot of us, there's this fear. Well, there's a fear that if I stop doing the thing, then they turn out they really wanted it and they loved it, and they'll be angry at me and hate me and fire me. Uh, but there's a version of that that means we don't even want to talk about taking away, right? Like if the economics of our business are such that if I'm thinking about taking something away and I talk to my 75 clients about it and two of them say they really like it and want to keep it, it's like, well, crap, I guess I'm doing it because I don't want two big clients to fire me, and two big clients could be big enough that it's actually profitable enough to keep doing the thing for just those two clients. And then you get stuck because like good luck finding something that literally every client all universally agree by consensus this would be a fine thing for you to stop. Like you just asking basically dooms you to find at least one or two people that are going to say I kind of like it, and then we get paralyzed and we don't do it. Like we don't stop it. And to me, the most fascinating thing that you highlight in the story of the performance reports going away is that you didn't ask.
It was a mistake.
It was a mistake, but like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't ask. You just tried not doing it and
yeah.
waited to see if anybody noticed. And if they
We do
did,
this.
like, right, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to send it out. It was an accident if it really was, or oh, we were just exploring how we balance our services. If you really want that, we'll make sure that we keep doing it.
Yeah,
And
we
you
do
can always
this.
give them back if a whole bunch of people actually say, like, I really liked you were doing that thing. Could you bring that back again? But as you know, I mean, if you go to people and say, "Hey, would you like regular updates on your portfolio?" I mean, who says no?
I
Like, no,
totally agree.
no one says no. Like, it
Completely agree.
feels like the prudent thing to do. Like, what responsible adult does not say, "I would like regular updates about how my money is doing"? Like, it feels obligatory,
Yeah, I agree.
but you
We
stop
do
sending it
this.
and nobody notices, and maybe that's your answer right there.
We do this all the time now. Now we'll do this all the time. Like we'll change something that we used to do, and if people complain, like we'll watch. Like, oh, is anybody actually logging into that thing? Oh, nobody's even logging. Like we'll reset everyone's password on. And again, like I should be careful about. Like I'm not suggesting that on anything. I'm just saying, like maybe you have this tool over here that you think is really, really important to people. You think everybody's using it. Well, go check the utilization. Don't ask them if they use it. Go see if they do. Like there's
Yeah.
this concept in behavioral science called revealed preferences. Like revealed preferences matter way more than stated preferences.
Yep.
And so just
Stated
go see
preferences is what they say they want if you ask them.
when they're asked. Yeah. So just go see, think of ways you could see without causing any harm. Like if you're careful about this, you can be careful about experiment design and see what you can learn through revealed preferences. If something happens where like you have a certain tool you think a lot of people are using and you for security reasons you make it so everybody needs to update their password and nobody asks you about what happened to the password, Well, you have an idea that nobody's logging in. So I just would think through that. I'm not suggesting it. I'm just saying, and then this ties into something. It may be, right? Like I changed my ADV to say performance reports available on demand. So when somebody asked, I was like, I can hit a button anytime. There's nothing special about quarterly.
Yep.
I can hit a button anytime to give you your performance report. So if anybody asked, we did. And then the other thing that's interesting to think about here is that this one thing that I'm increasingly, and we'll have to do another episode on this, is the way we price our services is really starting to, and I'm not saying stop AUM, I'm saying we are giving away a bunch of really valuable stuff. And I have a buddy of mine is, I think, the worldwide expert in pricing creative services. And he has started doing some work with some RA firms that I've sent his way. And he's like, I am shocked. You guys, I heard this from somebody else 15 years ago. You guys charge for the commodity and give away the valuable stuff. He's like, the most shocking thing is I've helped some advisors start pricing the stuff they're giving, keep the commodity the same and add a pricing
Yeah.
layer for the stuff. And he's like, what's crazy about your business is people are okay paying it.
Yeah.
And so there may be some pricing things you think about there too. Like, hey, there may be services you keep around for pricing reasons, but that's not what Meg was asking. So let me just say one more thing. Sorry, I'm like all fired up about this, but the other thing I think is really interesting is I had this exact conversation with my coach. And I was getting asked to do something a lot. I was getting asked a lot. People were sending emails about consulting and coaching a lot. Like, hey, could I come to Park City and hang out with you for a day? Or do you do cold coaching, or do you consult? And I was just like, no, 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 because I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm not a coach. So I called my coach and I said, I need to learn. I need to become a coachy coach, is what I said. I was like, I need to learn like coaching skills. Like, what class do I take? And she's like, why is your first instinct to need to know more? It's like people are already asking. You already know enough. And then she said,
Oh,
said,
people aren't asking you to go get training as a coach so that they can work with you. They're literally already asking you for coaching. So apparently they already believe you're worth it.
yeah, and so to Meg's point, and I think this is really important for advisors who do insanely good work, and I believe I probably know who sent this question, and she does do insanely good work and is incredibly well trained and like one of my favorite thinkers, practitioner thinkers. I tried to avoid the word thought leader. And so my coach said, for for part of your career, you get paid for solutions, and then you start getting paid for presence. And she said, for the first half of your career, you get paid for solutions. For the second half of your career, you get paid for presence. I'm not sure it's that clean, but it's not like the solutions go away.
Yeah.
And somebody with the experience level of Meg doesn't need to learn anymore, right? Like she just needs to lean in to providing the space that she already does and know that this is the other piece of this. You already are enough, right?
Okay, but when you're not sure you're enough, how do you
I
really
love,
know?
I love, okay, fine. But where,
Yeah, like okay, but where in practice do you draw the line? How do you figure out you're there?
yeah,
Or,
that's that's a
we're
really good question.
goal-oriented
I think
individuals that, try to diversify and manage risk. Like,
are clients asking for any more? I think my initial answer to that is like external evidence, because that's part of the imposter syndrome problem is, you think you're not value despite external evidence to the contrary is almost the definition of imposter syndrome. And if there's no external evidence to the contrary, well, then you're in what I call the never ever or the newbie, which is the fake it till you make it style of imposter syndrome.
yeah.
I have a bunch of archetypes of imposter syndrome, and that fake it till you make it's a different one than the never this or I'm an expert.
Hmm.
And imposter syndrome doesn't go away. In fact, it becomes heightened. The more expert you are, the more you're going to feel it because you got farther to fall. Like when you think about it, you're like, whoa, that's a long ways down there. So it doesn't go away. So we have to learn that external evidence, like, are clients asking for more? You know, what kind of relationships do you have? You know, are people referring business? If you were to do a net promoter score, what would it be? Just guess. Please don't do it. I mean, maybe you want to do it. I don't know.
What's wrong with
But
doing that? I like
I
NPS.
don't know. I know. It's fine. It's fine. I just think no reassurance is enough when you're in that space. So you have to learn to just practice
Yeah.
being enough. That's how you know.
So
Stick that in your spreadsheet.
I can't put that in my spreadsheet. I need a spreadsheet.
I
Right?
know.
I mean, look, like my head does go in the direction of what you like NPS and such. Like, if you want to know whether clients are happy with the value, ask them.
Yeah, or just look simply at your retention rates. You talk
Yeah.
about this a lot. You got a
Yeah.
95% retention rate.
Yeah. If they're not walking out the door, you're probably doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And frankly, like, the natural friction of what we do in people's lives change. Like, you should have a few walking out the door.
Right.
If you have 100% retention rate, I guarantee you're undercharging.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have 100% retention rate. You shouldn't have 100% close rate. It means you're undercharging. There should be some tension that they have to meaningfully evaluate. But I really would look at surveying them and asking. I mean, not necessarily like, what else do you want me to do or stop doing? Because that's problematic, right? With the famous, what was the famous Henry Ford saying was, if I asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses,
Right. Right.
right? Nobody would have said a car. They couldn't imagine a thing that they didn't already have. And likewise, asking people, is it okay if I stop providing blank? To me, it's just basically setting yourself up for failure, because someone's going to say they want it if you ask enough people, and then you're going to talk yourself out of it because one person said it was important. Uh,
Oh,
I tend to go the direction of, like, looking at retention rates.
mm.
That's your first indicator. And if you've got some attrition, drilling down even to what the attrition is. I've lost some clients. Well, is it because they died? Because, like, your value isn't going to change death. You can't solve that one.
Right. Right.
Uh I had talked to an advisor a couple of years ago that had like, was doing a lot of student loan planning and then, like, ongoing planning work with clients, and was getting really anxious about his value because he had, we talk about these like 95+% retention rates, and like his was like 80 something. And he was getting concerned, like, do I have a really serious value problem? My retention rates just aren't near anyone else's. I'm like, you made your business helping people solve student loan problems. I think your problem is that you're succeeding.
Right.
Like, you work with them for 6 years and you solve their student loan problems, and you've succeeded, and they're done and they move on. Because if you got an 84% retention rate, you turn over once every 6 years. It's like, congratulations, like, you're being wildly successful.
Yeah.
Go find the next new client that has student loan problems, because there's like trillions of dollars of student loans, so we're probably not running out anytime soon, right?
Right.
Sometimes, so my point is being, sometimes there's churn or attrition that has nothing to do with, I'm not providing enough value. It's external factors, death and the like. It's, you serve a specialized offering and they're just actually getting through the value stage that you were solving for. Once you get past those, like, I'm looking at um retention rate. I love your framing around utilization rate, right? Do they use it? I like, we stopped printing the giant plan when we realized clients kept forgetting it after they left the meeting. It's
Yeah.
like, if you
Can
don't
we
care
talk
enough
about
to
that?
bring it with you, maybe I should just stop printing it in the fancy binder. If you want a copy, I'll make you a copy. I can even ask, like, do you want a copy of this? And almost everybody said no. And so then we just started doing it interactively on the screen and not printing out the plans, because they didn't we do need something to look at. Like, it's a good discussion, conversation point around some concepts, but we started putting it on the screen and not printing it out because we realized like people kept forgetting it in the meeting, which to me is like an ultimate utilization rate signal. If they don't even
Yeah.
care, if they don't even care enough to have the courtesy to take it out of the office and pretend that they
Right.
cared and then just
Right.
like trash it outside the building, then they really don't care. So
That's
looking at
Can we talk about
utilization,
that for
yeah,
like there's some real risk there, and I really want to talk about this because
mm,
um the adding, the tendency to want to add,
yeah,
and especially if is really interesting in subscription based, like community based membership programs.
hmm,
If churn starts to go up when you hit sort of natural, so this would be like client retention rates, you're losing some
yeah,
clients. Like the natural thing you want to do is add more value, add more value. And the evidence is clear. Like you throw more stuff in there, churn goes up even more. And I was like, that's really puzzling. So I sort of dug into it a little bit, and it's utilization rate. Like, let me give you an example. We had one time we had this membership community, and we offered one year we offered 7 free sketches. You know, like the sketches or whatever, the digital license at behaviorup.com is $100. And so we were like, just people are already paying a monthly thing. We just gave them 7 free sketches. We're like, 7 free. Here's a code. You can go $700 worth of sketches. And some people, later, like the normal churn amount in the next month, and I called and asked, like, hey, why did you leave? Just curious. And they said, well, you gave us 7 free sketches. I only used 3, so I wasn't getting the value I was paying for.
yeah.
And I was shocked. I was like, wait, those were free. And they're like, yeah, but so that was a utilization problem. If you
So,
offer
so
all of this,
they were actually happier when you just didn't offer them. When you offered 7 and they could only
uh,
use 3, then you created a gap where they felt like they weren't using the service.
yeah, so I went and researched. This is a real problem. Like, and I've talked to a bunch of like SaaS owners and venture capitalists about this. This is a known problem. It's pretty crazy. The idea is if you offer more than, if you like, and the kitchen sink, like, and this and this and this, and people don't use it, they actually feel like, even though it's like it was all added, they feel like they're paying for it. They must be paying for it, and they're not using it, so they're not getting their value. So that's a real risk in our industry. And
Yeah.
that reminds me of my buddy Kevin at the firm. He's been there for 27 years. He doesn't send out birthday cards. He doesn't send out anniversary cards. And I was like, how did you build this business? It's amazing business. Never loses a client. Rapid response to client questions and consistent experience. Like we just do the same thing over and over and over. And when clients call, we rapidly reply. So he has like 100% utilization rate. Like it's a super simple business.
Yeah.
People are happy. So that's how I frame that question.
Well, the extension of that, because I got to get a spreadsheet in here somehow.
For sure. For sure.
And I mean, we do a version of this across a lot of our businesses as well. Just survey the people who pay you and ask them. And to me, the key, you don't ask them, do you want me to do this? Because someone's going to say yes, and then you're going to feel obligated. And you don't ask them, should we stop doing this? Because someone's going to say, I want it, and then you're gonna feel obligated. The question that we always ask is, how valuable is this to you? And we give them a scale, 1 to 5, 1 to 7. And let them tell you, not do they want it or not want it, because we're not the greatest judges of it. And, people want faster horses and not cars and all that. Just ask, how valuable is this for you? And
Yeah.
eliminate the thing at the bottom of the list. By definition, it means not many people like it. And if you probably have more than one thing you do in your business, so it's not literally the only thing, the odds are overwhelmingly that if the only thing you drop is the thing that your clients widely agreed is the least valuable, the odds are ridiculously minuscule that even a single person is going to say, that was my deal breaker.
Yeah.
You eliminated that, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stick with you anymore. Like if it's rating that low, A, there's probably not anybody who's going to die on that hill. And B, if you really find one client who's willing to die on that hill, maybe they just actually weren't a good fit clients because they clearly value something very different than everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And how, I mean, like quickly as we wrap up, how do you address though, I need to learn more. I need to be better. I need to like
Well,
that part of the question.
I keep learning because I want to learn. I mean, right? I'm very much wired continuous learner. Like I'm always curious and I want to go out and learn new things and learn more things. Like I don't stop on that journey. And I mean, an indirect version, like your friend, was it Kevin, who just like
Yeah.
rapid response, continuous experience? I have to
Yeah.
admit, like that doesn't sound appealing to me. I know I get why his
Yeah.
business is
I
effective. Like
agree.
I would get bored in that routine. That might be my ADHD thing, but like
Yep.
I would get bored in that routine. I couldn't do that version. I need some things that I'm continuing to looking at and doing to keep my brain moving forward because it just doesn't shut off and I need to do more things. But like I yeah, the fact that I'm going on my learning journey and learning new things doesn't mean I need to inflict it on my business and my clients every time I discover
Yeah.
a new object that's shiny. Sometimes it's just for my own edification.
Yeah, I love that idea of like, hey, you could build a really simple business and then find a different playground.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't have it's like, why are you I remember one of my executive assistants once was like, why are we changing CRMs again? I'm like, because I like this other one. She's like, you shouldn't be in there. You know, like why like it works great for the people who are doing it. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should go find some other place to get that same sort of like
Mhm.
enjoyment of change and improvement. And so I love that idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with continuing the journey. I mean, I think the biggest distinction, from Meg's question was like, when can I stop learning more because my value is enough?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't actually think those have to be connected.
Yeah.
You can stop adding more into the business when the value is good enough. Go learn because it's fun to learn. It's intellectually stimulating if that's what floats your boat. But, learn for the sake of learning. Learn and find a different playground to apply it in. Or if you're going to bring it back to the business, be very mindful about whether this is the thing you really, really want to add. Or I guess indirectly, as Meg is highlighting, or use all that learning energy to try to learn what you can cut instead. That's also a valid way to apply the learning exercise.
Yeah, yeah, become Michelangelo. Like what could be removed? And then the other piece I would throw in that may not fit in your spreadsheet is there is a different kind of work to realize you're already enough, right? Like no amount of
Yes.
reassurance, no amount of net present promoter scores, no amount of testimonials is ever going to tell somebody like me who's always felt like I'm not enough that I'm going to feel like that work is done in a different place. It's
That's
called a
fair.
therapist's office. It's called my friends. It's called the mountains. It's never going to come from work. And so I think there is like, and do all this stuff. And maybe there's another piece of work to help everybody realize like you're already enough. You're already enough.
Very cool. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, Michael. So fun. Thanks.
Thank you.